So welcome everybody to this session. It's the third session that we're having here at the Zero Project Conference that is related to India. My name is Michael Fembeck. I'm the CEO of the Zero Project, and I'm really proud to be the overall chair of this session, which is chaired then by other people, but it's a personal pleasure and honor to be the host of this event. This session is about the cooperation that the Zero Project, as the Zero Project, is building now in India with our colleagues, friends, and stakeholders from India. We have decided to run this session in two panels, and we'll hand over directly to my colleagues Ram and Mike, who will run these panels, but to give you just a brief intro of what's going to happen. So we are working currently on two major strings. One is the Zero Project India Conference, and the other one is the Zero Project Scale Up Hub, which are both working titles, more to come. But we using this Zero Project Conference to give you the latest and also like to invite you to have your thoughts on how you would like to come in and join us here in our efforts to connect the Zero Project Global Conference to all our friends and colleagues in India. I'm stopping here and handing over now to Ram, who will chair the first panel. He will then give back to me, and then I will introduce the second panel. So Ram, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Michel. Good afternoon to all of you gathered here. It's a privilege to be here, and thank you, Zero Conference, for the opportunity. My name is Ramakrishnan, and I'm a middle-aged male, brown-skinned, and wearing a light gray jacket with red-rimmed glasses. I represent Youth4Jobs, which has been founded by Meera Shenoy and has been working in the disability space in India. In addition to the largest program, Parivartan, that focuses on rural youth with disabilities, Youth4Jobs programs have four key aspects. Firstly, the Village Connect program, which connects youth with our training centers and provides them access to quality jobs. We have impacted over 9.8 million households using this approach. Secondly, we provide access to skilling through multiple programs that enroll youth with various disabilities into residential training centers. They are trained by sign language instructors and special educators in 21st century portable skills, such as English communication, digital skills, soft and life skills, and also job sector orientation. They are also handheld into their first year after job placement. Through this, we have impacted the lives of approximately 500,000 youth with disabilities across India. Thirdly, through our Corporate Connect program, we support companies in their inclusive journey by offering a series of services ranging from sensitization, accessibility audits, sign language workshops, onboarding, and recruitment. And lastly, through our job portal, Swarajability, the first ever of its kind for people with disabilities, we provide an AI-triggered, accessible job platform for matching companies to our skilled workforce with disabilities. For this work, we won the Innovations Award twice at the Zero Conference. More importantly, the scope and the breadth of this work actually undermines the continuous need to engage and to innovate across the length and breadth of India, which houses the largest population of people with disabilities across the world. Hence, it was only natural for Youth4Jobs to partner with the SL Foundation and the Zero Project to bring this one-of-a-kind conference to India. The launch of the India conference this year couldn't have come at a more appropriate time. There is an urgent and a pressing need for bringing innovators, policymakers, private sector partners, funders, advocators, research and knowledge players under a single large umbrella to engage with each other while also creating an ecosystem of collaboration to massively scale the impact on the lives of people with disabilities as never seen before. Hence, my hope and request of this panel is to help build a blueprint for the launch of the Zero India Conference, so that it not only serves people with disabilities in India, but also becomes the shining North Star for similar innovations and impact for South Asia in the years to come. Hence, without further ado, I request our first of our three panelists, Mr. Arman Ali, to kick us off. Following Arman, it would be Shashaank, who will be our panelist, and then finally, we will have Tariq, who will be joining us virtually. So over to you, Arman.
Thank you, Ram. Hello, everyone. Just to take it on from where Ram left, I think India, I was just sharing in my previous panel that 66% of India's population is below the age of 35. And out of which, whatever sketchy 12 years data that we have in India, it is said that at least 2% of them are youth with disability. And I must warn you that the numbers are mind-boggling. You know, there's such a huge number of youth with disability in India, and who is struggling on an everyday basis to be part of the mainstream, to be part of the discourse, which is to do with education, to employment, to accessibility, to products, to services, and so on and so forth. So I work with NCP-DP. I am the executive director and also chair for Disabled People in International India chapter. So we run India's largest network on persons with disability, and we have our partners across the country. We are focused on education, employment, accessibility, law, policy, and youth in particular, and that's how we have been driving. And I see a lot of synergy with Zero Project, and there would be, you know, I mean, no, as Ram said, you know, there's no, I think with G20 around and the kind of discourse which is there in India, and we're having the G20 presidency, it would be, I think, the right time for Zero Project to come to India. There are a lot of innovations that's around and a lot of discourse, and I think disability sector in India is quite, you know, ahead in a lot of terms. You know, the youth, they really ask a lot of questions, and the sector is thinking and talking about. We have one of the strongest legislation on disability in India, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, which is in harmony with the UNCRPD. India was one of the first country to ratify UNCRPD. And to bring Zero Project in India, I think the kind of ideas that can be exchanged, so I think we will stop at least reinventing the wheel. I think that's very important for all of us to do the save energy, and the sharing and transferring of knowledge, which is there, which has been built up from last so many years with Zero Project and I see there's a large Indian delegation which comes to the Zero Project Austria every year. This is my third time here, and so I think there is a need. As Ram pointed out, the population is more than many European countries put together. So they need all the kind of support, the information, the best practices to be shared. And Youth4Jobs, I think they are phenomenally placed to do this well, and NCP-DP will definitely support. when Zero Projects wants to move for this important event. My another experience that, we run 2 awards ourselves. One is the Helen Keller Award, which is running from last 24 years. And we recognize people with disabilities and employers and civil society organizations who are promoting employment for people with disabilities in India. And we are also running this Universal Design Award, which is to recognize people who are promoting universal design in products, services, policies, and so on. So that's we've done for the last 13 years. So we have a wealth of information and data of the kind of stuff that's happened in India. And I take pride in saying that Youth4Jobs, Enable India, they all have been our awardees, and they are an ally in whatever we do. Even Shashaank sitting next to me, I must not forget. So I think without taking much time, back to you, Shashaank. Oh, I'm sorry, back to you, Ram.
Thanks, Arman. I will do the difficult job of summarizing what our panelists say much later, but for now, let's hear Shashaank and his views on the conference.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here. And thanks for Zero Conference and friends at Youth4Jobs. What I'll do is maybe I'll just set a little bit of context, and then I'll share my perspectives. But before I do that, I just want to compliment Zero Project on the catch that they have landed, right? So I think you couldn't have found better partners than you have. So well done. I think you're in safe hands. And I think that is an encouraging start for all of us, right? I think, we have Meera here, we have Dipesh and all our friends here. And I think we are very unusual in that each of us can speak for the other. Right? I mean, I think that's not something that we can find very often. I would have zero problem in them speaking for me or the other way around, etc. So I think for me, that's the most exciting part. It's very energizing as well. And why should Zero Project worry about coming to India? So if you were to look at the WHO estimate, right, then the number of persons with disabilities is teeny-weeny larger than the entire population of Australia, or Malaysia for that standpoint, right? So you can choose whether you want to go there or you want to go somewhere else. And that's your choice. And yet again, I must compliment Zero Project on having made a very intelligent choice, even though I'm invested in that choice in some form, right? So I think if you're looking for the next stage, and I'm not here to speak for, neither do, it's my place to speak for the Zero Project, but I think as you look at what comes next after 10 years of this incredible work, it clearly has to go to a much larger number of people, right? And I think, therefore, the scale of opportunity and disadvantage at the same time is unmatched, right? The second thing I want to tell you is US dollars 37.5, $37.50 is what it costs every family per month in India if they have a person with disability in the family, right? Take the number that I said, take 15% of India's population, or you can halve it, which is what Meera told us many, many years ago, right? 70 million. You can take any number you want, right? And I'm saying that's what is the size of the wallet, right? That wallet, this is not a number any of us have come up with, right? This is a number that the government came up with, right? So that's the size of the wallet. This is in urban areas, 2,800 and change in Indian rupees is what it is for this. So there is very serious economic costs to families with disabilities, right? And this is a wallet which I think, and Arman was pointing to this, unfortunately we couldn't finish, that when we are budgeting for what are seen as public good projects, we should recognize this price in it, because this is a penalty that persons with disabilities and their families face on an everyday basis, right? Because not many people are able to afford this. Just to give you a sense, right? If you multiply the number I told you by 8x, that puts you in the top 10% of income earners in India, right? That's really the scale of need that we are looking at. And finally, I have deep admiration for Enable. We have learned so much from them, right? Meera ji is here. We've learned a lot, and we've been fortunate to have her guidance in so many different ways. And of course, there's Arman, who we always look to whenever we want to needle somebody but don't have the courage to do so, right? This is somebody who's helped put together the organization that he is, the legislation in India. But I can tell you one thing, even though I'm super fond of them and I admire them and their work, single-handedly, none of them are going to be able to make a serious dent at this. Not because it is beyond their capacity, but the enormity and the sheer complexity. I think it's very difficult to be able to imagine a single experience for a person with disability unless you've been in that context. You can start with anything. You can start with water and sanitation. The first thing that you do in the morning to go to brush your teeth. That's a problem if you're a person with disability. You can look at healthcare, you can look at education. 40% kids with disabilities don't go to school at all. Right? What are you going to do about that? I don't think any of us together can fix it. So for me, I'm hoping that this will lead to building of the ecosystem. Obviously, you feel enthused and energized, and therefore I must puncture this as well. And my worry is that when you get to meet such an august gathering, it leads you with this sense of energy, purpose, etc., etc. But I can only say for myself, it also sometimes confuses action with progress and interaction with engagement. I think Zero Project has the ability to move from interaction to engagement. I think that is going to be the make or break for Zero Project, but I think we're in safe hands. So look forward to more on this later.
Wonderful, Shashaank. That was quite insightful. Thank you very much for that. We will now move over to Tariq, who is joining us virtually. Sorry, Tariq, we can't hear you.
Am I able to hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Apologies. No, just first of all, thank you, Mikhail and Ram, for inviting me and Omidyar Network India to ZeroCon Vienna 2023. It really is a singular honor to be sharing the stage with in the company of pioneers in the space and kickstart the journey of my firm in the sector. My name is Tariq, and I work at Omidyar Network India. We are an impact investment firm. We partner with bold entrepreneurs who help create a meaningful life for every Indian, especially what we call the next half billion. From a demographic standpoint, these are low and lower middle income households. These are domestic workers. These are blue collar workers, people who run small businesses. And our investment approach is to create holistic impact for the next half billion. And we do this by investing in tech-driven startups focused on the NHP. In addition to investing in startups, to really create large-scale impact, we realize there are other tools that we need to leverage, including research to inform evidence-based policy, campaigns to inform and mainstream real issues, working with the government, etc. So we are slightly an investor with a difference when it comes to the tools that we leverage. As a part of our efforts to broaden our impact and help create a meaningful life for every Indian, and to be truly inclusive, we are looking to support bold entrepreneurs working in this space. Of course, we believe that a lot of work has there is already strong momentum in this space, and a lot of our early time here in the sector would be to listen and learn from pioneers in the space, but then come with the limited capital that we have and try and invest in a couple of areas. One is field building initiatives such as accelerators, community building initiatives, etc. And second, invest in for-profit startups in the assistive tech space. Just in terms of the vision, Ram, that for Zero Project India, the real idea, at least in my head, is can we try and replicate the success Zero Global has had in India, and can Zero Project India be the beating heart of innovation in the sector? And that leaves us, and the idea really is, can it play a curatorial role where it brings in the private sector, the public sector, investors, all under the same tent, help each other understand what the challenges each other has, help them build partnerships with each other, that's really the role and vision I hope Zero Project India will have. And in terms of just the activities, given this ambitious mandate, it can be quite varied, and it could even be starting from community building initiatives, prizes to highlight innovation, research and mainstreaming, campaigns to really mainstream issues. I think we'll have to really look at where the India space is, and try and understand what are the right tools to do. And I don't need to add anything more on why India is important. The numbers are just staggering, and it's imperative that persons with disabilities in India have access to the best change makers and innovators. In addition, we believe that India is an emerging hub for assistive tech, and can really contribute to the global conversation in terms of solutions. Yeah, back to you, Ram.
Thank you very much, Tariq, for that. Thank you all my panelists, at least, for some very insightful thoughts. I now hand it back to Michel Fembeck.
Yeah, first, let us start with giving a warm hand to Ram and the whole speaker panel. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming in here and giving your background and also your willingness to work with the Zero Project in India. Before I hand over to Mike to run the second panel, I'd like to give a little more background on what the Zero Project is up to and what our thoughts are, and how this might work from our perspective. So you all know the Zero Project, so we have some clearly defined strengths, which is the conference. We know how to run a conference. We know also how to convene people. We know about the power of innovations and also how to research innovations, find innovations, communicate them, and we also know how to convene people, bring them together in meaningful ways, so that, as Tariq just said, there's the difference then between interaction and engagement. It's easy to make people interact, but making something meaningful out of this, I think we have also a history in improving to do that. Having all said that, there's a lot of things that we can't do as an Austrian charitable foundation with limited capacities, and this is why we have a clearly long-term approach how to build Zero Project India. One of the key elements, and this is what this first panel was about a strong belief that we need to have an annual conference with our Indian communities that brings together everyone that wants to work together and is willing to work together with the global Zero Project network. So there has to be one annual meeting place where people physically meet. This is also our story of the COVID times. Electronic, virtual, Zoom, Teams alone does not work. We need this meeting place in order to get things going and to keep this community connected. Youth4Jobs and friends, and with the great support and the thought leadership of the Omidyar Network India, we're bringing together this conference now. It's my pleasure, since Ram, you didn't mention this directly, so we will host a Zero Project India conference in August or September. The date will be finalized soon and will be communicated soon. So there will be a conference in Delhi in August, in September, and everything that we are building together, all these stakeholders will be part of this conference, and we invite everyone in the room or online and everyone that we will approach. If you have a stake in India, if you think you want to better connect with Indian stakeholders, this is the conference to go, because this is all about, as also Tariq said and the speakers before, there is the spirit of the Zero Project Conference, and we are willing and convinced that we can transfer this spirit to India and to this conference in Delhi. It will not be the Global Zero Project Conference on an Indian level. It will be this connecting hub between the global community and the Indian community. And everyone who has an interest, welcome, contact us, get in touch with us. This is part of the story, and I'm handing over now to Mike, who is chairing the second panel, who will introduce us, maybe not the second, but a second part of the story, so the strong cooperations that we're building with Enable India and friends. So over to you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Michael. Yes, briefly introduce myself. My name is also Michael, and in our communication, I'm Mike, and Michael is Michael, so we know who one is talking to. I just briefly tell you why I'm literally sitting on this panel. More than a year ago, I was working together with Michael, and we tried to establish a little bit of a push for innovations that came out of the Zero Project Awards to connect them better to corporations, to cities, and make sure that these great ideas have a chance to grow, provide impact, but also grow economically. And after the Zero conference, we sat down and said, look, this is actually something where Zero Project is so strong, you have a worldwide reach, maybe we should try to find out if we can build something like a hub. And I then called it Scale Up Hub. We went out to the Austrian Development Agency with the help from our friends from Ashoka and said, look, we would like to do a feasibility study and see if there is something out there where we can, you know, if something has been invented in Africa or in India and Europe, why would we have to reinvent it? And then Michael said, let's try that. And we should reach out to India because Zero Project has excellent contacts to India. And yes, we do, apparently. So I had the pleasure to join Michael and Sumita for a trip to New Delhi in October and talk to wonderful, tremendous people. I was so impressed and so energized from what I saw from Mira and Dipesh and the colleagues on the panel that I will introduce shortly. So what we reached out to do is to find ways to build something that is globally scalable, but of course starting in India. And I cannot emphasize enough what's already been said on this panel, that the size, but also the quality, the initiatives, the budgets that are out there in India are really impressive. And I was really looking forward to discussing this today. I would love to introduce my panelists to you, and I'll just move on here. And I have with me Moses from Enable India, Dan from Enable India, and Samir from DISQ. I would like to hand over now to Moses and give a little bit more insights on the topic, why we think this is necessary. Oh, sorry. I have to give over to Samir. I made a mistake. Samir, please go ahead. Please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. So very warm good afternoon to all the people in the room and to people joining in online. My name is Samir Rawal. I am a reasonably tall, reasonably smart-looking gentleman, brown skin. I'm wearing a black T-shirt which has two logos, Tata Consultancy Services, which is the organization that I represent, and Digital Impact Square, which is a pre-incubator that provides something very unique to young innovators in India. And what we do essentially is, we heard a lot of people when it comes to incubation, a lot of the focus is on providing what we call as last mile connectivity, which is taking these idea products, prototypes, and taking them to the market. What we do is be on the other side of the spectrum. We are actually providing the first mile connectivity, which is basically people with ideas, grassroots concepts, who are completely clueless on how to actually convert those ideas and prototypes into something that can actually work in the real world and which people would love to buy, right? Because it needs to be sustainable. And that's essentially what we do at Digital Impact Square. And I specifically look at health and assistive technology focus. Now, over the last day and a half that I've been here, and I've been hearing wonderful conversations from a lot of people who are doing some amazing work in the space of the disability sector. What I would like to also bring now to focus is, is an interesting analogy, right? So any society has three types of people, right? We have a large population that is apathetic, which is don't care because it does not impact me. They usually are 80–90% of most societies. You have a certain smaller group of people who, what we call as complainers. They keep complaining about what's happening around them. And they are important because if they don't complain, we won't notice. So however unpleasant it may sound, we need these people. And then we have a very small percentage of people in any society who we call as problem solvers, right? And if you want to create innovation at scale, this small percentage of problem solvers needs to be made bigger, right? And that's what essentially is the vision that we at Digital Impact Square are doing. We're trying to see, can we encourage more problem solvers to come into this space, right? Not everybody needs to have a felt experience. You could actually empathize, learn from this amazing work that's happening out here. So can we get more problem solvers into this space? And through that aspiration, we are definitely confident that we'll see a lot more innovations coming in this space, right? So I think those are the areas that we look at. And in that journey over the last six and a half years, we found there are a lot of barriers. So there's not only barriers for persons with disabilities, there's also barriers for problem solvers, right? And some of those are listed on screen, but I think, the top 3 barriers essentially around the idea stage, for example, would be nobody really tells them what is the problem to solve, right? And I think it's a big, big issue. We go to young people in colleges, universities, and they say, we love to solve problems, but can you please at least tell us what is the problem that we need to solve? I thought there's a tremendous opportunity that we have really not tapped in putting up these challenges, right? The other is, of course, universal design considerations. A lot of the technology that gets developed, a lot of the products that get developed do not really pay much attention to inclusiveness, and can we bring some of those conversations into mainstreaming. And the third is co-creation, right? So a lot of these are hidden disabilities you are not likely to encounter, especially in a country like India, where a lot of these disabilities are treated as taboos. You're not likely to meet them on the street. You're not likely to meet them in any of the common forums that you may be engaging with in typical daily life. And it becomes very difficult to co-create because, as we had today morning, not without us. And absolutely that is important, but I need to know where you are so that I could actually spend time with you to understand, right? And then there's prototyping, and there's this product launch to market, and I think a lot of experts are there, but I think the first barrier is where Digital Impact Square plays a very important role. And the last 6 years, we have been able to create around 7 startups, sustainable startups in the space of disabilities that have gone out and started creating impact. So I think we would love to bring our experience in this space to the broader platform that we're trying to create in India, and hopefully go global through that. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, Mike.
Thank you, Samir, for these introductory words. The one thing I would love to say before we move on is when I was in India and I realized that there was DISQ, there was Enable India, there was Social Alpha, there were so many different steps already taken for innovations, grassroots, up to venture capital funding. And I think the discussion we'll now be having is how can we get all these into one, as we call it, value chain. And then I would now like to hand over to my friends from Enable India and to explain a little bit on the idea of the ecosystem. This is a call out for action to everybody who would like to participate in that. This is an idea, this is what we want to build, this is what we think is necessary. And I'd like to ask Dan and Moses to elaborate a little bit on that topic, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I'm visually impaired. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, yeah, okay, I'm talking to people here. Oh, wonderful.
Good afternoon, Moses.
Thank you. First of all, Zero Project Conference is coming to India, and I'm very proud to actually talk about another initiative where India is going to lead in building the ecosystem for solutions and assistive technology or assistive solutions in that sense. We at Enable India work across 19 disabilities, and we had a privilege of building livelihood models both in urban and rural spaces. And in our 22 years of journey, we have built a lot of public goods. Our knowledge, content, tools, frameworks are open sourced. But one thing that we really learned in our journey is that, understanding the challenges that a person with disability faces, or in the case of companies when they are trying to hire, understanding the problem is important, and then the solution emerges. And I just wanted to start with a little story that many of you might have heard from Dipesh. Once he was talking to a group of visually impaired, and he asked, hey, I mean, in Indian context, we have large families, and hey, how do you identify your toothbrush? As simple as, you green, red, pink, whatever colors, and people would pick up. But being visually impaired, how do you do it? Somebody said, oh yeah, we put a elastic band. Somebody said we scratch. And Dipesh, I think, also subsequently asked, oh yeah, how do you actually align the paste on the, in India we put the paste. So how do you put it on the brush? Maybe, as people, technology people will say, hey, Bluetooth technology, whatnot, transfer, robots. But I think one hand went up and said, well, I take the toothpaste in my mouth, on a finger, and brush it. The problem is not about putting the paste on the brush. The problem here is brushing itself. So that day, what we learned is understanding the problem is core to coming up with the solutions. And we launched, as many of you heard, the Project Discovery. My team Den and are really running, and now it's become Discovery Awards, which you have seen, few hours ago in the M1. We went to people and said, please tell us the solutions that you use. And the 1 or 2 minute videos that people sent, we have collected 3,000 videos. Solutions. One of the solutions is about somebody who cannot hold the pencil, started using, they took a potato and put the pencil inside, and the kid started holding the potato, and they started peeling day by day, and it became a therapy, and slowly potato is gone, the kid is able to hold the pencil. So what we learned is that there is innovation at the core. People innovate every day, and only thing that we should do is to make that innovation available for larger scale. So if you see the framework for DISH, which is Disability Innovative Solutions Hub, is about first search, the finding the solutions. So if somebody says, hey, my child has the similar issue, how to hold a pencil, this solution should come up. Similarly, somebody actually, another grassroots innovator has actually sent, both wife and husband are persons with disability and physical disability, and they both use wheelchair, and they had a challenge on them when they get onto their motorized, modified bike, where do they keep their wheelchairs? So they actually created a nice ramp with a cart kind of thing where they can keep wheelchairs. Now the Disability Innovative Solutions Hub can actually see that solution. Somebody can say, hey, it's a beautiful solution that is made by somebody in the grassroots, but this has a potential to become great product. And that's where the second key thing in Innovation Hub, understanding the problem. Once I had a industrial company came and said, oh, we created a wonderful solution for blind. I said, wow, what is it about? Oh, it actually helps people to navigate, move independently. Well, I want to test it. So I had this big glass on my face, and they said, yeah, it has 9 sensors, and it vibrates, and it can detect the 9 angles, and so on and so forth. And I couldn't take a step because I move one step, all over my face, it started vibrating. Can I really use this? I don't think so. So understanding the problem is core. So that's why, people like DISQ and other organizations, technologists can actually pick up a problem that can be really, really core and then solve that. And finally, in the framework that we are also saying that people can invest and take some of the solutions that our young talent innovates, the solutions creators make, can actually become unicorns. Why not? And I think that's the key thing in our framework of search to probe to grow to scale. So I just want you to remember this small little framework that we are going to use, which is search, make, and fund. Fund can be investment and so on and so forth. So this is the way that we wanted to look at. We want to change the narrative about solutions. But my friend Den has many more stories to tell, and I think, Den, over to you to talk about your journey. And yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It has been my privilege. And good afternoon to all of you. Thanks to Zero Project, especially Michael, for giving this opportunity and to take Zero Project's ideas to India and Indian subcontinent. So the story starts when we think about small bit of innovations which are being made by people with disabilities and their stakeholders. WHO report says that 15% of total population in the world are persons with disabilities. But do you think that only 15%, only with disabilities, can survive in the world? No, we can't. Because we need an ecosystem. And the primary ecosystem, if we calculate that, is 1 plus 1. That means 30% of total population of the world is associated with disability. How can I not connect my mother when I am connecting to myself as a person with disabilities? Because she has been my primary support, primary caregiver. Small bit of solution to manage my scoliosis. If she didn't develop in my childhood days, the solution-centric mindset won't have got imparted in me. Therefore, the ecosystem development and acknowledging the 30% is very important. Therefore, the work of DISH becomes even more important because India has a very strong structure. I went to the rural part. I traveled India, 26 states of India. And by traveling to 26 states of India, I realized that the district level and the village level does also have small bit of, echoing, okay. So small support groups of people with organizations to support disability. They may not have the professional training, but they have the heart to do betterment. They may not have the proper language. They may not have the proper way of speaking. But when you work with your heart, when you work with your emotion, you can develop a whole system altogether by holding hand. Therefore, this emotional connect from the grassroots teaches us that we can. And we started the journey during our COVID time, where everything was grim. Nothing was supposed to work. But EI Labs, one of its kind labs, was launched in Enable India just 3 years back on 21st of February 2020, and right after that, 1 month, 4 days after that, the stringent lockdown of for 1 month came up. And there came the innovation. How to take innovation forward from our home to the community and community to our organization. So building up the ecosystem began from there. Keeping the problem and the person in the center, we started our journey. And while we moved to the future, we had this vision that yes, as India has become a unique place because of its diversity and uniqueness, we can really support with humility, and we can move to the world level in the case of disability. For that, DISH is going to take the first step with the support of Zero Project to make it global and bring native intelligence from India and global intelligence from other parts of country to blend it together to create a whole ecosystem of assistive solutions. I never ever talk about assistive technology because technology cannot solve all the problems. Assistive solutions should be propagated as a language, and that we need to establish each and every day in our additional language value in UNCRPD. That's why the journey has just begun. And let's go to the infinite travel in the space and let's see what emerges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. And I think everybody understands now why we called him the VIP when we were in India. His energy and the way he acts on the topic is just really inspiring. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for the panel. I think there's one more remark I would like to make personally. I was really very much positively surprised this morning when I saw the lady from Nike talking about inclusive design. And I think that is exactly the overlap we need. We need to make inclusion part of business models, and then it's working. And I do believe that with a hub and a worldwide approach to that, including these corporations, we can do a lot of good and create a lot of impact and make things better. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for the discussion. Handing over back to Michael.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the whole panel. And again, a warm applause for everyone who spoke in this last panel. Thank you. So let me finish this session with a few remarks on this journey, as Dan called it, that we're embarking together as the Zero Project with our friends and other stakeholders from India. One thing is, as an Austrian, I might not have a kind of post-colonial mindset, but maybe a little Eurocentric mindset. So that's, you cannot really escape that. But working now for several years with Latin America and now understanding after a week a little more how the Indian ecosystems on innovation for inclusion and accessibility works has also made us humble. So we learned what we suspected before, but in talking with so many people, there's a lot to learn from India especially. India is mentioned already several times, but it's not only a problem with large problems, but also with a large problem solution potential. I learned a lot about how they think about pre-incubation, incubation, scaling, ways of financing. So there's a much more elaborate world out there that we suspected, and we want to bring this also with the cooperation to the Global Zero Project. So this is really, we can all learn from the way, it's not, I don't mean this in a metaphorical way, I mean this literally, we can learn from the way India tackles innovative solutions and how to scale them. Second remark and observation, and we heard this from many stakeholders, even from government representatives who are in charge of these decisions. India sees themselves as a country where when they solve the problem within their country, it's comparatively easy to also use and scale this outside of India. If someone is developed in India and works within India, it will most probably work also in sub-Saharan Africa, and it will work also in other Southeast Asian countries. That's not true for something that's invented in Austria or Denmark. So there's really, I think, a change of mindset needed that we also want to use. And it's not only the thought, these people, they are expressing this. And there's one person speaking in the policymaker forum after this session here, Dr. Moni Raju from NITI Aayog, which is some of the innovation center, government-driven government entity. They say that. They say we are tasked of mass producing affordable, available technologies, assistive technologies, and we're doing this not only for India, but we are the hub for also scaling this to other countries. So we see this as a role, and I think we will all agree that the geopolitical situation also supports the role of India in the next 10 or 20 or the next generation even. India will definitely become more important. So following up more concretely on what has been said by my friends and and colleagues from India, what could this mean, this scaling up hub? And this is more some personal thoughts, how I would see some concrete steps or some concrete scaling activities. It's very different if we talk, for example, about something that got the Discovery India Award this morning, which is something that you fit to a class, that your straw is fixed, and someone who has limited mobility in the hands can use a straw easier to drink from a glass. For this, I think scaling is comparatively easy. You need a 3D printer, and you need something that tells a 3D printer what to do. So in this case, you don't need a global scaling strategy that takes you ages. So this is maybe a very simple example how to scale. We're looking at that, and we're trying to find those solutions. And but this is only one part of the innovations that we're talking about. Think about someone who tries to make hospitals more accessible and on a more global, on a more ways that not only look at certain aspects, but really try to make a hospital more accessible. This is interesting for India. They have developed their solutions. This is interesting outside of India. But how do you scale this from one country to India or from India outside? This takes a very different mindset, a very different approach, very different stakeholders, very different ways of financing. We're also looking, of course, on that. There are other innovations that might even make work if some regulations, some government funding regulations are changed. Might be as easy as that, might be as difficult as that. We are all looking at that, and we try to understand what the role of the Zero project can be in these very different ways of scaling from India outside, from outside of India to the world, or from the global Zero project community to India. So this is the job. We are on a journey. We are just embarking on this journey, and we will find the solutions. I'm 100% confident. But for that, I would also need you in the room and everyone else from the Zero project network. If you have something in innovation that you think that works in India, come to us now, because we can include you in a way of thinking. No? We will bring together at the conference and in various activities 30, 40 major stakeholders that are as high level and are as innovative and as dynamic as the people you see here on the podium, and as you saw with Tariq from Omidyar network. There's a unique chance to meet all these people all together. So if you have something as an innovation, come to us. If you're a stakeholder that wants to work with India, come to us. You will never get these people in one room, or at least in one network. So this is also something to the Zero project network, to a message. It's the time now. So we are developing this now, and please come in, support us, join us. I want to say something then? Okay, over to you.
So it gives me great privilege to call two leaders just in front of the podium, Michael and Dipesh, to exchange the papers, Memorandum of Understanding about DISH, and it would be a great privilege to have a wonderful photo session with it, so that this new partnership and this new endeavor can give us new impetus to work on global innovations coming out of India and global innovations going into India. Dipesh?
Thank you, Dan. You killed the surprising element of my finishing my speech,
okay.
But this is where I wanted to end, but you have taken this away from me.
Sorry.
But actually, I'm at the end already, so thank you all for joining us here today. We will do the finishing now with an official signing of the documents. Thank you, everyone.
Please be seated for a while. Okay. This is